Where is he? What? Go ahead.
Welcome to Virtual Networkers. Happy Thursday. I hope everybody's had a great week so far. Ladies, I know you know how the routine goes, but I'll just repeat it for my own iteration. We're going to get started with our 30-second introductions. After that, I will introduce our speaker, who's Susan Friedman. And after Susan's presentation, we'll do our announcements. If you could go ahead and go to the chat box, put in your first, last name, email address, any other information you want to share. Just put it all in there. I'm going to do that very quickly myself while I'm thinking of it. Do you all have like a file that you go to and you copy and paste
Mhm.
everything? For years I was the founder of this and I never did that. I'm like, oh, Jill, you should really have a file. So, anywho, let's get started with our introductions. I'll go first. I'll ask Susan Friedman to go after me. I'm Jill Celeste. I know y'all know me, Virtual Networkers founder. I founded this organization in 2018 before COVID, which at the time everybody said you are crazy, but I knew differently. And so honored to have almost 90 members in our organization. So if we know anyone who
Fantastic.
should be here with us, please invite her to join us. You can send her to virtualnetworkers.biz to check us out. So with that, I'll go to Susan F and then Susan B.
Yes, I work with nonfiction authors to help them eliminate sameness so that they can inject life differentiation into their book marketing, as well as sell books in bulk. I help them unlock the power of their book and the expertise to grow their influence, impact, and income in a niche market. I'm Susan Friedman. I should know how to even say my own name. I'm Susan Friedman, a publisher and book marketing expert with Aviva Publishing based in Lake Placid, New York. I'm also the host of the award-winning podcast Book Marketing Mentors.
Wonderful. We're glad you're here to talk about getting rich in our niche today. All right, Susan Bach and then Franya.
Thank you, Jill. Great to be here today. My question for you is this: is your business taking more from you than it's giving back? You're doing all the right things and yet feeling overwhelmed and underpaid. Here's the truth: it's not about working harder or doing more, it's about working differently. If you're anything like my clients, you didn't start your business to feel stuck. You started it for freedom and fulfillment and impact. That's exactly why I created the Your Business Your Way system to help you close the gap between the business you have and the business you know is possible. And I would love to help you get there. You'll find my information in the chat.
I love it, Susan. Thank you so much. Franya, you'll go next. And Margaret, we're doing our 30 seconds, but we'll have Franya go first. Go ahead.
I am Franya Izey, and I am the founder of Shiro Empowered. I am the Sherpa who guides women on their journey of divorce, whether they are pre, during, or post. I do not want them to fall into the pitfalls that I fell into. The biggest one that I fell into is not asking questions. With not asking questions, my ex-husband left me in January 1988. I was promptly divorced in July of 1995 because when you don't ask a question, the answer is always no. I want women to know that they are stronger than they ever think they are. They are darn well worth it. And I do not want them to go on this journey alone. I am here to support them with their limiting beliefs, that they are worthy, they are lovable again, because I do end with a great love story. I do also want them to know that this is a safe place to come, open their heart, tell their story, and be heard and validated. I am empowering women and redesigning futures.
Love it, Rania. Such a great mission. Thank you so much. Martin and Pete today.
Yeah, a little peek today.
Little peek.
So I live in delightful Dunedin, Florida, and if you don't know where that is, that's okay. We just like to keep it private. I'm teasing. It's over in the west side of Tampa Bay, and I work with women to help them heal those wounds from those toxic relationships they've been in that Franya's helping them with as well. I utilize EFT and other processes in my book, The Chatter That Matters, Your Words Are Your Power. Back there that help them totally release these emotions. It's called EFT for a reason, emotional freedom techniques. We get rid of them out of your body, out of your mind.
That's
You can find out more at margaretmartin.com.
beautiful, Margaret. So good to see you today. Thank you for stopping
Yeah,
in.
absolutely. Good
So
morning, Miss Sue.
that's right. We have
Thank you.
our two Susans. Have you met Susan Bach yet, Margaret? No? Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you two will get acquainted through today's meeting. I know you think you've met Franya before, my memory serves me correctly. Yeah. It's the thing, like I can remember that, but don't ask me what I just stepped into the kitchen for. Can't remember those details, but those I got. All right, ladies, I'm going to introduce Susan Friedman. So just give me a moment. I'll get her bio in front of me. I know she just did her 30-second intro, but I want to read it anyway. Susan Friedman, CSP, which stands for Certified Speaking Professional, is a badass in nonfiction book marketing. With 30 years of experience, her company, Aviva Publishing, helps authors sell books in bulk and thrive in their niche. International best-selling author of 18 books. In fact, her first one sold for 500,000 copies. That's 500,000 copies. Susan hosts the award-winning podcast, Book Marketing Mentors. She loves adventure, and then she's been chased by an elephant. She's hugged a tiger, and she's been rescued by the National Guard. She enjoys her 3 grandkids and travels with her partner 55 years. Susan, well traveled, my friend. Do you need a timer for 20 minutes or are you good?
Give me a timer or give me, I'm not seeing the screen, so actually I've got a clock here.
Okay.
I just need permission to share my screen.
All right, yep, you got that.
Okay.
There we go. Getting closer.
Let's do that. Oops, there we go. Okay, excellent. Can you all see a black screen?
Yes.
Excellent, good. So just to prove it, okay. Why isn't this moving forward? There we go. Yay! I do
Aww.
have tigers, and he's actually real. He looks as if he might be stuffed, but he isn't. Don't stand in front of him, though. That's dangerous. Anyway, we're here to learn about how to make it big in a small market, how to get rich in your niche. So let's talk about the fact that there is a jumbo-sized problem in the marketplace, and that is that there's too much sameness around. Coaches, consultants, business coaches, life coaches, financial planners, copywriters, you name it. There are lots of different professions that we can't often tell the difference one from the other. Now, I know all of you are in nice niches, or niches, as I prefer to say. But the fact is, overall, there's a lot of sameness out there. I remember when I first came to this country, over 30 years ago, and I was looking for some detergent. I had a 2-year-old, I needed to wash diapers, and I went into the supermarket and I was overwhelmed with all the different choices, and I didn't see anything that I recognized. And I stood there, I cried, I walked out of the supermarket, and I didn't buy anything. And that's exactly what happens, that when there's overwhelm and confusion, often the prospect doesn't buy. So, what is the decision based on then? The decision is often based on money, and it could go either way, that people look for the cheapest, or if you do training, as I learned early on when I started my own training company, you do not go cheap. I thought that if I undercut my competition, that people would buy from me. But in fact, training, people prefer if you have a more expensive product than that. So, think about that in terms of your marketplace and the difference that you make. So, what's the solution to all this? The solution is to position yourself as an expert in your niche market. So there are two words here, well, three actually, expert and niche market. So let's look at niche market first, because there's a lot of misunderstanding as to exactly what it is. And it's because we talk about target versus niche marketing. And often I call them kissing cousins. Um, they're they're different, but there's a lot of similarity. And the similarity is that if you take a piece of pie and cut it up into pieces, then you have a target. And I'll talk about that first. So, we can have men, we can have women, we can have pets, we can have athletes. There are umpteen target markets. The fact is that those are huge markets in and of themselves. So I want to show you how if you take one of these targets and break it down, how we can look at that versus a niche. And so here we have a target market of women. So you've got a lot of different professions that women are in: teachers, corporate, lawyers, stay-at-home moms. They may be baby boomers, entrepreneurs, lots of different types of um, target markets. But each one of those in and of themselves are large. Now, if we want to focus, we might say, okay, well, we've got all of these. Let's decide that we are going to focus on healthcare professionals. Again, huge market, huge market. When authors come to me to publish the book, the first thing I ask them is, who is their book for? And they often say, women. Okay, let's break this down a bit. Well, women between the ages of 35 and 55. Okay, that's still huge because, again, if you think about a woman of 35 and a woman of 55, they have very different needs from each other. One might just be starting to be a stay-at-home mom, where another one might be, an empty nester and even thinking about retiring or going on and doing other things in life. So let's look at this in terms of a niche market. So a niche market is if you have that pie, you're going to take that pie and you're going to break it up into much smaller pieces. So let's have a look at our market again, and we'll look at it in terms of our healthcare professionals. So our healthcare professionals, again, huge. They can be hygienists, dentists, massage therapists, nurses, admin. They could be doctors. Lots of different possibilities of what they could be. However, if we wanted to focus, we might want to take a niche market and say, hey, let's look at chiropractors, but not only chiropractors in general, but female chiropractors. And if you want to break that down further, you could say female chiropractors in Florida or in California, or if you take it even further, in San Francisco or in Orlando. You could break it down and that becomes a niche market. And the beauty of that is being able to get your hands around that market, because the more you can get your hands around that market, the easier it is to find people and for people to find you. So might ask yourself, well, why should I niche market? Okay, let's have a look at some of the benefits of niche marketing. First of all, there are far fewer competitors in a niche market. I started off when I started my business in the training business, but I wasn't just training anybody. I was training exhibitors at trade shows. And my first book, How to Make It Exhibiting at Trade Shows, Tips and Techniques for Success, that was the one that I managed to sell 500,000 copies. Why? Because I was in a niche market and I stood out from the competition. In fact, I was one of a handful of people doing what I did. And the trade show industry, by the way, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But what I was doing was very specialized within that niche market. So you've got fewer competition and fewer competitors, which means, it's easier for people, let's say, to find you. What it also does, it makes marketing more effective because if you can get your hands around the group of people who are your niche market, then you can direct your marketing, whatever you decide to do, whether it's social media, whether it's podcasts, webinars, speaking engagements, whatever you decide to do, you can narrow down and focus more effectively and not just, throw spaghetti against the wall, hoping some of it will stick, which is a strategy that many people use, unfortunately. And I see some of you nodding that you know that strategy, and a lot of people do. So, what else? It's more profitable. Why? Because if you're one of the only games in town, you can actually charge more. Think about it. Let's say that you had a child with a heart issue. Would you take that child to a GP, an internist? No, the chances are you're going to find a pediatric cardiologist and the best you can find and you can afford because those people don't come cheap. You know? So, and sometimes it's covered by an insurance and sometimes it isn't. So the fact is that the more specialized you are, the less information that's out there and the more likely people are to buy what you have at a higher price tag. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you've got the possibility to earn more money, which is always a nice thing to do. So, and then finally, the last benefit is that visibility. It's easier to find you. You stand out from the crowd. Why? Because you've done more effective marketing and you're easier to find. So if I go back to when I worked in the trade show industry, the best way for me to get known at that time, this was before social media and podcasts, and was writing. And so I wrote in every single magazine that covered the trade show industry around the world. I had a column in every one of those magazines. And guess what? People said to me, "Oh my goodness, Susan, I see you everywhere." Now, was I everywhere? No, but they saw me in a couple of places, and all of a sudden, their perspective changed and I was everywhere. So that's what you want. You want people to be saying, and now, of course, it's on social media, it's on podcasts, it's on, any kind of speaking engagement, webinars, whatever. The fact is, the people who you want to see you are seeing you. And that, of course, is very important because you want to be seen by the people who want to see you. So, knowing this information, there are a few questions that you need to be asking yourself as you look at niching yourself. Even though you are in a niche market, let's look at how you can niche yourself even more. And those are three questions which I call that make up your foundational blueprint. And one is, what do you want to be known for? How, you want to be known as, a divorce recovery coach. That's pretty specific, you know. But do you want, is it for male, for female? What age group? You know, is there a demographic? You know, so you want to be, what do you want to be known for? Then why is your message important? You know, why should people listen to you? And more often than not, it's because they want to learn from the experts. They see you as a thought leader. And the more you are out there in the marketplace, showing them that you are a thought leader is where the expertise comes into play. And then, you know, what makes you different from, I mean, I'm sure there are other divorce recovery coaches out there. What makes you different? Why should I hire you to do this? So those are three key questions that you want to be asking. And then you want to look at what problem is it that you are solving? Now, what do people need? And you know they need it. What are their challenges? And you may need to go to them and do some research and ask them, what are the major challenges that you are facing? Now, there's a difference between a need and a want. You know, often people think they want one thing, but you know they need something else. And I know when I was doing more training in the corporate environment, people wanted sales training, you know, especially for trade shows. And I was like, no, no. I knew they didn't need sales training because many of them were salesmen or saleswomen in that environment. What they needed, and I knew they needed, but they didn't know they needed, was interpersonal communication skills. So I sold them what they wanted, but taught them what they needed. And I want you to start thinking about that in your own environment because that's what they want. And then why is yours the best solution? And that goes back to, you know, what do you want to be known for? Why is what you're offering better than anybody else who's offering the same services that you offer? You know, clients don't care what your product, or think about that as a service as well. They really don't care what your product or service can do. What do they care about? They care about, they're tuned into that famous radio station, and that is, if I can get there, what WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's where everybody is tuned in. It's like, what can you do to help me, advise me, give me tips, support me, give me guidance, give me help? That's what people want. And what's your job? Is to give it to them. And you give it to them in different formats. So you're looking at how can you give them this help, support, advice, and it comes in different formats. It could be through coaching, it could be through writing, it could be through your lead magnets, it could be through networking. It's all different ways, through the podcasting. There are all different ways in which, you know, to use a term, to skin a cat, there are all different ways to skin a cat. So look at what would work for you, because in essence, it's about thinking differently. And this is a great ad that, if you think back, this is an Apple ad. And this is what they said. This is what Apple did. They thought differently. They produced something that made you think, oh my goodness, this is different. I want that. And that's the way I invite you to start thinking differently about what you offer to your clients, prospects, that makes you different. And that's what's going to make you big profits, because there are big profits in small niches. And if you would like a 20-minute niche marketing assessment, I am more than happy to do that. And if you would like a PDF, which I've turned into I call a flip book version of my international best-selling book, Riches and Niches, How to Make It Big in a Small Market, I'd be more than happy to send that to you. If you send me an email at susan@avivapubs.com, and I would be more than happy to send that to you. And with that happy note, we have question time,
Yay.
and I will stop sharing my screen
Okay.
and answer questions.
Yeah, Susan, first of all, I had complete slide envy. That was a beautifully put together presentation. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing it. Who has a question or comment for our Susan Friedman?
I do. And I want to
Susan.
say, Susan, thank you. This has really got me going and my thinking. I took Shiro Empowered online January of 2024. It has taken me almost a year to perfect who I want to work with and for. And I'm like, I've been talking to women since 1990, but they always sought me out. I lived in Dallas, Texas at the time. Now I live in the middle of nowhere. And I want to help more women. That's why I took it all online anyway. And I did think I want to work with divorced women. I come out of 40 years of corporate accounting. When you write a payroll for a man at the corporate and you write a paycheck for a woman at the corporate, you're like, holy cow, you've got to be kidding me. But that was way back in the 90s. But I did. I thought about it and I now know who I want to work with. And I had someone look at my website several months ago and they said, Fronia, you have got to raise those prices.
Mm.
And I thought, that just made my stomach go, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. And they said, no, you do it. And I've done it. And I'm like, yeah,
Kudos.
thank you. And I know
Absolutely.
I do. I mean, even though you said, okay, I took copies of your slides because I'm like, I've got to look at my website and I'm going to go, okay, Susan said, do this. Susan said, do this. Because I know it's a little disconnected, but with this, I know I can get it connected. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Fantastic. And I invite you to consider, Frenia, is to looking at women, maybe of a certain age group, who were maybe accountants, who are in a situation are now divorcees. So you can even niche it down to, people in certain industries. And if you know that accounting industry, I guarantee there are a ton of women who are divorcees in that accounting industry who are either in it or were just something that you have in common with them. And again, stands you apart from any other person who's doing divorce recovery coaching.
Thank you. And one thing that I did put in there is I do have an age group that I work with, but it's also women who are ready to move forward. Now,
That's a
with
big
that said, I
one.
do have a new program. We could talk about that in a bit, but it's the fact that you're ready. You've been there. You're like, I have got to start moving, and they've got those questions, and that just I went, wait, I can't. Like they say, if you want to help everyone, you're really not serving anyone.
You're
Right.
not serving anyone. Exactly. You hit the nail
And
on the head with that one.
yeah,
Absolutely. And that's the whole beauty of the niche marketing and being able to get your hands around, your target market, your niche market. Because as said, target and niche are used interchangeably, but
Right.
unfortunately, they are different. And I hope that example showed you a little bit more about how to, niche down.
yes.
Who else? Susan, Margaret? Margaret, go for it.
Thank you. Again, this was wonderful. And after our conversation briefly at the soiree, this is very helpful. I think my challenge is because it is broad, it is women and women who've been in toxic relationships. Well, who hasn't? So trying to niche it further down, it has been my challenge. I've given presentations to a divorce coaching training program. I'm having a conversation with an attorney in a few days or weeks, and so I'm just trying to think. Of course, I don't share the profession from my former husband, because if it's in my book, which is about my relationship with him, I don't share publicly what that profession is. It's just one of the professions. So
However,
niching down in that profession would then be,
you could go from a local level. One of my colleagues in the speaking business, she had young children. And so she decided that she would just do training in a area where she could be home at night to be with them. So
right.
you could do this, and you're the expert in the area within, a certain circumference of where you live, within 50 miles,
Yeah.
or you could take the whole state of Florida if you wanted.
I mean, let's
But
not plan small. Hey,
yeah,
Margaret, how
Yeah.
about doing because I know what your ex-husband's profession was, going up a notch. So it's not just his specialty, but anyone who went through that kind of programming, schooling, training. I don't want to say it
Yeah.
out loud because I don't know how confidential that is.
yeah. But I mean, but there are several others environments, and
Yeah.
environments that you maybe feel very comfortable with. Um, but
One of
I
yeah,
think there are
one
a
of
lot of
the
people in your area, in the
one of the
area that
areas
might
that
be able to.
I I did a lot of volunteer work was with domestic violence, but
Hmm.
and the survivors. But here again, most survivors are hanging on a thread that I've worked with, and they can't afford my basic
Right,
price,
right,
much
right.
less.
Oh,
So
Margaret, how about women who worked with their spouse?
that's
Something to consider.
Yeah, there's another possibility is to find a sponsor, somebody who is interested in that same target audience as you, and who'd be willing to sponsor you. That's those
that's a
are,
possibility.
Yeah,
That's a possibility.
and it could be a bank, it could be insurance, it could be financial
a
planner,
financial planner,
you know.
maybe.
Yeah. Again, somebody who has money. When you look at sponsorship, you want to look at where are the deep pockets.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good reminder, because one of the guys I'm in leadership analysis with has he had very wealthy, and he and his wife put together a nonprofit, and he asked me about coming to. This was weeks ago, so
yeah,
maybe I can come and do a demo, and then say, okay, how about hiring me to come in once a month,
absolutely.
once a week?
Yeah.
Just because they're nonprofit doesn't mean they don't have money.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
My
I
daughter
mean,
works in nonprofits.
nonprofit is deceiving. It's deceiving. I mean, just look at, the Gates Foundation and stuff. That's all nonprofit. There's
Yeah,
buku
I'm on
bucks there.
nonprofit boards, so I
Yeah.
know how much money we have.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I know
Okay,
that.
thank you for that. Yeah,
A
and thank you for
pleasure.
those ideas. So yeah, I'll
Percolate.
I'm an
percolate on
ideas
those.
person. I'm definitely an ideas person.
I know you're really good at this. We may have to talk again.
Susan, how about you? Did this, what,
Susan's a marketing expert. So you probably are singing to the choir with her.
yeah, I'm sure I am.
In addition to what everyone else has said, excellent presentation for sure. Love the slides, love the visuals, the graphics. I didn't even need to see the words. Just the graphics alone were just so impressive.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
pleasure.
I love your foundational blueprint questions. So vital to ask those. And as I was thinking through that and listening to what you were saying, the word that came to mind, Susan, is that we need to be bold in our belief,
Mm.
bold in who we want to serve, bold in saying no to what is not going to fulfill us, and equally bold in saying, yes, you and I are a right fit. Yes, I do have the solution you're seeking. So that courage to step into that boldness, I so thank you for that. And maybe it came from the tiger in the very first slide. Who knows where it came from? But beautiful little segue, and making the distinction between target and niche. Again, so vital.
Yeah.
One of the things that is really in my face every day with clients is the nuance of the language we choose to use. And if a difference of one word can make such an overall impression. And so taking the time to clarify those two, making that distinction, and I love that you said they're kissing cousins. Beautiful. But again, taking that in and really investigating, and the word that I like to use is getting curious.
Mhm.
Curious. So thank you for this. I thoroughly
Pleasure.
enjoyed it.
Pleasure. So one of the things that you said, and I've got a much longer presentation of this, and what I go into is the fact, the boldness, the fact that we don't often, as women, think of ourselves as experts. And I come across this with authors, and that they suffer from imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I know I did for many years until I realized that it wasn't just me, that there were other people out there.
Right.
And they don't, so this idea of boldness and confidence, to own what we know.
Yeah.
And as you say, be willing to speak out loud about it. And I mean, even the top people, Oprah and Tom Hanks and Angelina Jolie, they've all had, at some point admitted that they have imposter syndrome, you know? And yeah, so I think that comes up often. And I find that when authors, in terms of promoting their book or promoting themselves, um, oh, I don't, I'm sort of hiding behind this book. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So, any event,
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
One, yeah, and I like that Susan Bach about being bold, and that's one of the things
mhm,
Jill also talks about in her book, Loud Woman. And
yeah,
when I talk about people being loud, doesn't mean in volume.
Correct.
mhm,
It's about and being bold. It's not about being in, and I
Noisy.
used that in a video or something about or a 30-second commercial that I created or something. Is I help them own their power, own their voice. And sometimes that
mhm.
voice is just the quiet voice that says, get the F out of here.
Yeah,
See, I didn't say the whole word, Jill.
yeah.
I'm so proud of you,
And,
Margaret.
but both you and Franya come across people, I'm sure, that don't feel they're good enough.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and that as a result of their circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
what happened to them, they've been tossed out, sort
Mm.
of, and yeah, so that I'm sure that comes up, yeah.
Yeah,
But
actually,
finding ways
yeah,
to feel bold and courageous, absolutely. Thank you.
yeah. And
This
thank
is
you. Appreciate it.
Susan,
Yeah.
Good
you
ideas.
you have really, it's such a beautiful presentation. And I know you're
Thank
going
you.
around the circuit, this virtual networkers circuit to
Well, doing this one, I'm also doing the one I'm doing for Donna tomorrow
yeah, would you
is on
want
the
just
book
to
marketing.
share that just a quick summary of what you're doing tomorrow in case somebody wants to join?
Yes, it's make money with your book, but it's going to be very different from what I did today. I'm,
And don't forget,
I'm
ladies, because I know Franya's is it Missouri, Franya, where you live? Yeah.
yeah,
And Susan's in California. So maybe too early, but you can catch the replay. You can watch the
yeah,
replay if it's of interest to you.
yes.
It's an 8 a.m. Early
Eastern
morning.
It's
time.
Eastern
I don't
time,
know,
which
Susan. Do you look that coiffed at 5 a.m.? I don't know. I don't know.
I know she looks amazing.
Always
I'm
looks
like, oh
amazing.
my goodness.
Oh my, she always looks it.
Yeah.
Inspiring,
That is.
inspiring.
Oh, gotta have a haircut tomorrow. But
All right, ladies. Well,
Jill,
let's
do
move
you have a
on.
question? Do you have a question, Jill?
Or do I?
Mm,
I
what
don't think
stood
I
out for
do.
you?
I did was a reminder to go back and look at my ideal client. I've been doing some I call it ideal client work, and seeing if there's a way to narrow it down even further. And it's interesting, because I used to do marketing coaching, and I bet Susan, you see this too, both Susans, is a lot of us when we get niche, we get into the niche, this it could kick off a scarcity mindset, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm making it too narrow, and then you never make it too narrow. And it's interesting to see how even though I know it's there, when I start working on, chiseling away at that, how you can kick off a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Thank God for personal development, so you
Yeah.
can reel that back in.
And Margaret, doing the EFT, the
Oh, of
tapping.
course, right? Because that's a limit.
Yeah,
It's a limiting belief.
it
So
is.
that's
Have
interesting
to
that you
work on my
say
own.
that. Yeah.
We all do, right? We all do.
We all do. Um, eh, that is a fear that I come across a lot, is the
Mhm.
fact that if I go into a niche market, what happens if somebody outside my niche market wants to buy? And I would say you've got a choice. But the fact is, doesn't mean you have to say no. It just means that your emphasis, especially when it comes to marketing, is in that niche
That's right.
market. And it's not broad because, it's like I said, otherwise you're throwing spaghetti against the
Exactly.
wall, hoping some of it will stick. So the more you can wrap your hands around your niche, you know, and again, providing that there's money there. You don't want to be
Sure.
in
I
a
mean, do some
niche
market
that where
research.
there's no money, then that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's looking at where there are people who can afford your services.
that's
Yeah.
right. I love it. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again, Susan. Always a delight.
Pleasure.
We'll move to announcements now. This is your chance to share something you need help with, an ask, a referral need, or you can do a shout out. Feel free to use the chat box for any links that might support your announcement. I'll go first. I'll ask Susan Friedman to go after me. So next Thursday, we're having a big to-do in our chapter. It is a coffee date party, but what I'm doing is I'm positioning it as like a sneak preview event. So we will I already have, I think, 12 guests registered for this event, but we really could use a few more. So if any of you ladies know anyone who you think would be a good fit for virtual networkers or vice versa, please invite her. She has to register through Eventbrite, and I believe I already put that in the chat box. That probably was the first one. Yeah, it's right there. I'm the first entry in the chat box. There's an Eventbrite link that she would need to register with. And that gives her the Zoom link and all of that. And because I'm a marketer, I'll have her email address then. And please invite her, because what we're going to do is we'll have in the beginning very short introductions, and then we'll do 2 coffee dates. And then at the end, I'll do an invitation. We have $1,700 in signing bonuses that people could take advantage of.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so we are, and for this particular chapter, we are looking to welcome 4 members. So if we could just knock that out, that would make me look good as the founder. It's not just about me, no. But it would be fun to have more ladies join us in this chapter for sure. So that's that. And then another thing, just to give you a heads up, especially for our newer members, we do this thing called a coffee date challenges, and we're going to do this one in the summertime. And what it is if you do coffee chats with fellow virtual networkers or with women who you invite to virtual networkers, and you get a point and you reach a certain threshold, and then I send you a little cheesy gift like that. Margaret Martin modeling one for me. It's really, the prize is the conversations that you have, but it's a great way to get to know each other, especially if you for our like Margaret is a charter member. She's been with me since the beginning. For her to meet newer members and for new members to be existing members, blah, 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 blah. I put all the information in the this past Monday's email if you want to go back and look at it. And there'll be more reminders as we get closer. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. Start scheduling those coffee chats for June, July, and August. So with that, I will button my lip. Let's go to the Susan Friedman and Susan Bach.
Excellent. So I thought I'd make it easy for you. I grabbed the link for that flip book. So
thank
that's
you.
the
Thank
link
you.
to get it. Save you writing another email and me opening it. And also, I mean, I would love to, if any of you want a niche marketing assessment or talk more about that, here's the link to schedule tea with Susan.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your generosity.
Pleasure.
All right, Susan Bach, then Franya.
Awesome, thank you. I'm so excited, I can hardly sit still. I am in the midst of working on a new master class, and it is the working title is We Need to Start Doing Our Business Differently. The environment that we're in. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, and if you would like to have an invitation to that masterclass, just send me an email and I will add you to the distribution. It's going to be in early June. Why we need to do our business differently.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
I don't even know if you need to change the title of that. I think you got it right there.
You like it?
I do. I mean, it's clear, but it's also compelling.
Awesome. Thank you.
Did anybody else agree or no?
No, it perked my ears up and I was like, oh, check that out.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
I
right.
hope to see you there. Yay.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I'm gonna
Susan.
ask for an invitation. I have to see how it works with my calendar time-wise, but yeah.
Anyone who registers for the masterclass will receive a replay, the recording.
Oh, very good.
So even if
Okay.
you're not able to attend, you'll still have access to it because we're all busy, right? We're busy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
We
But try to
have a
attend
life.
live too.
Life is in session.
Amen. I love that. Okay, Franya, then Margaret.
Oh, Susan, again, this was absolutely great. It just got us all going. And Susan Bach, her inspiration too. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready. My life has been on hold for the past year because of husband. I'm ready for a refund with him, but I'll keep him.
Time to make it up to you.
I decided to keep him. We are getting back into business here. I am absolutely having fun with this. I'm going to as many virtual networkers meetings as I can in a week. I am absolutely loving it. But with me also being a divorce recovery coach and the Sherpa, I know women are on the fence and they have a hard decision to make. And I have something, I just put a link in the chat, and it's called Do I Stay or Do I Go? And it's about women who are on the fence. And it's a 3-month program for them to come hear their voice out loud and get the clarity that they want and they need. I would never tell a woman to walk out of a marriage unless she is being physically hurt.
Right.
It's time to go. That is not acceptable, it's not normal, and it's surely not healthy. So this is for them to come and be brave and to know that this is all confidential and it's not going anywhere. And I don't tell anyone about your story because it's not mine to tell, it's you.
Beautiful, Franya. Love, love, love it. All right, Margaret, what you got?
Well, again, thank you, Susan. It was, beautiful presentation, good information. Okay, I had something I was going to share and totally forgot what it was. So it must not be that important. Oh, I had a question. So Jill, do we members of virtual networkers need to also register on the Eventbrite?
Oh, no. Just guess because I already have your email address.
I know. Okay, that was a question I had asked yesterday, I think, and nobody knew the answer. So.
Yeah. So thank you for asking. I'll make sure to clarify that for future communications. I want that to be close to occur. Not that it hurts that you do it. I mean, it doesn't stop anything, but it's not necessary because you can get the Zoom link from our newsletter. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Will you be there next week?
I have it on my calendar.
Because I'm telling you a story next week.
Well, thank you for the heads up because
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
That'll be my
It,
first go. And I have a very special story about Margaret that I'm going to share next week. So tune in.
and I'll grab my tissues.
I know I was practicing it and I got a little choked up too because I remember that moment. Anyway, now I've really piqued your interest, I hope. Ladies, anything
Come
else?
on over.
Yeah. Anything else before we go? It was so good to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I'll get this replay up on our Mighty Networks in case you need it for some reason, as well as the chat box. And I'll see you next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Bring some guests. Let's have fun. All right, ladies. Love you. See you later.
Love you. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Oh, all right.